Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us here at the Canadian Immigration Institute. For those of you just joining us, we do live Q&As at this scheduled time on Wednesdays, and usually it's Mark himself that does these. However, Mark is away right now, and so I'm going to be stepping in to be answering all your questions to immigrate to Canada with a focus on express entry. My name is Cédric Marin. I'm an immigration lawyer at Holthe Immigration Law. And I also have my own Q&As that I do on Tuesdays at 4 a.m. Toronto time, at 9 a.m. London, UK time for those that are abroad. At our law firm, we help our clients to immigrate to Canada. We help them to properly prepare documents, to avoid errors in applications, and we provide legal advice to clients on the best way forwards. If you're interested in speaking to us, this is our law firm, Holthe Immigration Law. Go at the very top here, you'll see Speak to a Lawyer, and then you can book a consultation with Alicia, Chanel, myself, or Mark, and you can see our different areas of expertise here and what we like to focus on. You'll also see at the very top here we have our blogs, and so if you're somebody that wants to do their own immigration application and wants to learn more about this, you can start with the blog, have a consult to speak about your file, and then retain us to work with you to help prepare your application. I do want to note here that we are having issues with our Google Business profile. We are open, we're accepting new clients, we're very excited to work with new clients. However, our Google Business profile, we are having issues with it. It does say that for some reason it says that we're closed, so we're working really hard trying to get that fixed. All right, so we're going to switch back here. We are taking live questions, and we're just going to wait a few moments to allow everyone to connect. Running a few minutes late today, and ask your questions. Just give me one moment here as I just connect everything together. And apologies, just one moment. All right, we'll start with our very first. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this all set up here. So yeah, so this is a new feature now. You should be able to actually see your questions. It should pop up here on the stream. New feature that I'm just testing out. There we go. So you should see your messages, your chats actually pop up on the screen as you type them in. We're going to ask you not to spam our chat, so just put one or two questions in, and I'll do my best to get around. Oh, sorry, people say they can barely hear me. Is there anybody else having issues hearing me? Just type in the chat if you can hear me properly. I'd really appreciate it. My end, it looks like it should be working. In any event, here we have, I hope you can hear me. Here we have, oh, here, I'll just turn this off actually. Here we have Sesh Ad says, hello, sir. Hi to you too. He asks, what are the educational qualifications required for express entry? Thank you. Thank you so much. You can hear me. Thank you. Let's try to speak louder as well. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for the feedback. It's my second time hosting this alone without Mark. So if there's any issues, please let me know in the comments below. But you know what? Let's get right into it. Let's answer as many questions in this 1 hour that we have together. All right. So what are the educational qualifications required for express entry? So when we're talking about express entry, we're talking about minimum. What are the education qualifications required? We're talking about two big parts of express entry. So the first part we're talking about is eligibility. So before you can decide whether or not you want to apply for express entry, you actually need to be eligible for express entry. So let's take a look. If you're outside Canada, or if you're going to be applying under the federal skilled workers, there's a minimum requirement for education. And here they have it. If you have a foreign education, you must have completed a credential and an educational credential assessment for immigration purposes, demonstrating that you have a secondary institution, so high school, or you have a post-secondary institution. It's the very minimum, and we have here either Canadian degree, or you need to get your educational credential assessments. That has to be a minimum of high school or post-secondary institution. So this is for federal skilled workers. If we just go back here and we go to our Canadian experience class, so this is usually for individuals who have Canadian experience, we'll see here that education is a little bit different, right? So there's no education requirement for the Canadian experience class, right? For the eligibility part. This is the second point. Second part of the question, you might be asking yourself, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I get points? What type of points do I get for express entry? For my education. All right, so let's go take a look. So here are the ministerial instructions for express entry, respecting express entry, and we're going to be looking at education, and we're going to go down here to the education level. So here we're talking about the level of education. So you're eligible for express entry, you meet the eligibility part of Canadian experience class, right? There's other eligibility factors that we've talked about, but assuming we're just talking about education, you meet the eligibility for education, and then here are the different points that you would get depending on your level of education. So you can see here that in some cases you can get up to 135 points if you have the university level credential at a master's level. So you can get 150 points if you have a doctoral level, right? Education is really important as well. We talked about this yesterday. We talked about what's called the transferability factors, and in particular the points for transferability factors. And here you can see that if you have a certain language score, if you have a certain level of education, and in some cases work experience as well, you can get additional points. So education is really important for express entry. All right, let's flip back here. Emirates says, greetings, good sir. Hi, how are you? So glad to have you. Follow-up question, you need a bachelor's degree. I hope that answered that question for you. To be eligible for the federal skilled workers, you just need to have your high school diploma. However, as we saw for the points, it's recommended to have, if you have a master's degree, you get 135 points. So education is quite important for express entry. Do we have information about the postgraduate work permits? Excellent question. We get a lot of people reaching out to us about what to do. Unfortunately, we don't have any new information right now. I actually just checked just before I started the podcast, the live Q&A, to see if has the minister announced anything. So let's just flip back here. The minister, still no announcement on the postgrad work permits. Nothing from IRCC as well in that regard. But you might be asking yourself, well, what do you do, right? Your postgrad work permit is expiring, and what do you do? And right now, just like any other immigration program, it's really important that you respect the immigration laws in Canada. So here we're talking that at the end of your authorized stay, that you leave Canada or you take another status that's available for you. So in this case, for example, we'll talk about different scenarios. For example, you could speak to your employer about getting a labor market impact assessment, the LMIA, to actually get an LMIA-based work permit. And what you would do is you would actually go ahead and make an application to change your work permit from the postgraduate work permit to your LMIA specific work permit before your postgraduate work permit expires. So this could be an avenue that's available for you. You might also be looking at other avenues. For example, if you have a Canadian spouse, or permanent resident that's in Canada. And if you have a pending PR application, you might be able to get and change your work permit from a postgraduate work permit to a open work permit because you have a pending PR application, in particular a spousal application. So those are very specific scenarios, LMIAs, pending PR application like a spousal application. However, do keep in mind that you are able to apply for a visitor record within Canada. So this is actually to extend your stay inside Canada. You would be switching from a work permit to a visitor status, and this would allow you to remain in Canada if you don't want to go back home. Apply online, and you can see here actually how long it takes. It's this page. Yeah, there we go. 171 days. However, if you applied before the date you were supposed to leave Canada, so before your postgraduate work permit expired, if you applied, you can legally stay in Canada until a decision is made on your application. And the idea with this is that you would be able to stay in Canada, not work, right? You do not have a work permit. You are not allowed to work. Your work permit is expired, but you're allowed to stay in Canada. And you're hoping that the postgraduate work permit extension allows you to switch from the visitor status to get your postgrad or work permit. Now, there's a lot of uncertainty because usually you're not allowed to switch from a visitor visa to a work permit from inside Canada, but there are exceptions right now with COVID. If you've already benefited from a public policy, we still need to see whether or not that postgraduate work permit is going to allow you to benefit again from this public policy and get an extension. So there's a lot of things that we don't know about the postgraduate work permit. What we do know is that you must respect Canadian laws and rules for immigration. So the date when your postgraduate work permit expires, you must stop working. If you don't have another valid status in Canada, you must leave Canada. Right? So we do know this as a fact. If you do want to remain in Canada, this is an option that may be available for you. We can obviously assist you with this into switching from your postgraduate work permit to a visitor record. You can also read about it online on the IRCC website. So we don't have any more, to answer your question, Frank, very, very long-winded, but no, we don't have any other news. And right now, as with any other work permit or study permit, respect Canadian immigration rules and either leave Canada at the end of your stay or switch to a status that's available to you, whether it's LMIE-based work permit, an open work permit for a pending PR application, a visitor status. You might also consider going back to school if you're interested, but again, there's so much uncertainty as to what are going to be the eligibility criteria, when are you going to be allowed to apply for it. There's so many unknown factors, so we really don't know. We really don't know. All right. Elicam says, "Hi, Cédric." Hi, Elicam. How are you? You're doing a great job. Well, thanks so much for the support. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be trying to give a lot more legal information, do more live Q&As, really give access to justice to people who want to immigrate to Canada. And this is all part of this effort. And I appreciate your patience, everyone, with the screen, with the screen, the volume. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support. Please share any updates, postgraduate work permit extensions. Listen, I guarantee you that within 12 hours of this being announced, I'm willing to bet within 5 hours we're going to go live and we're going to have a video on our website. We're monitoring this extensively for both existing clients and obviously for you, for individuals in your situation. So you might have also learned, obviously, if you've already joined us, you obviously know about our courses on the Canadian Immigration Institute. If you're just joining us, just very briefly, we do have courses for DIY. So people who want to do their own immigration applications, but yet they want to take a master class. They want to learn more about it, and they want to take a course. So we're actually getting ready to launch a postgraduate work permit course for the renewal, so you can actually sign up and get an email as soon as we have this ready. We also have an express entry course, and if we take a look here at the bottom, take a look at everything, but really what I want to show you is the bottom is everything that we cover. So everything from completing personal details to questions about proof of funds to what to do about various immigration forms, document checklists. We address this in our courses. So we have various levels of engagement. You can join us on a podcast. You can leave a comment in our YouTube section. You can book a consult to talk more about strategy for your immigration case. You can retain us for us to do the work for you to properly prepare the documents. You can do a course online. We're trying to be really accessible to as many people as possible through these different initiatives. All right. QQQ, Leah. When do you think Express Entry or CEC score will drop below 500? So excellent question, and let's get right to it. All right, switch back to the screen, and let's go take a look at the Express Entry rounds of invitation. So as we know, right, on July 20th, there was a Express Entry, no program specified, and the score was 542. Now, right now, the rounds of invitation are happening about every 2 to 3 weeks. We just look at no program specified, it was 15 days. And so assuming that we continue every 15 days, we have a draw for 1,700, right? We can take a look here to see how many candidates have a score of over 500, right? So it's going to take at least, at this rate, it's going to take at least, let's say, 3 to 4 months, assuming that the draws continue at the same rate and they continue to accept the same amount of individuals. Now, we might have a situation where they all of a sudden they take 10,000 individuals, right? This would obviously drop the score lower, under 500. We might also have a scenario where they stop the non-program specific draws, or it slows down, right? The other draws come in. So this is based, so to answer your question, I would say probably going to drop below 500 in the next 6 months, but this is just a guess. It's based on past performances, and we don't know what's going to happen. Anything is possible. We could also find ourselves in a situation where we have occupation-specific draws, so they're not really going to be interested in the CRS score too much, but they're going to be looking for specific occupations in specific regions. So to answer your question, it's going to be, I'd say, a little bit around 6 months for the score to go back below 500. Kanjan says, "Hi, have you seen the Twitter from Way Williams? Got confirmation from IRCC that postgraduate work permit extensions will be out shortly. What do you think?" I haven't met Wei personally, but I do know he was on our YouTube with Mark. They did actually a video together, him and Mark talking about AI, which was really fascinating. He's actually done a lot of fantastic work in terms of getting access to information requests through the government to learn more about AI and what is happening on that front. So I have not seen the Twitter from Wei. However, I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to do an access to information requests or through his existing contacts get more information on postgraduate work permit extensions. We do know that it's coming out this summer, and we're already a month into summer, and we only have about 2 months left. So, we're hoping it's going to come out during the summer. I'm going to have to take a look at this, Kijun, to see what Will William has said. But again, he's really reputable, and I've only seen really great stuff on his from his law firm, on his own work that he's done. He's also done a lot of work for the CBA, where he actually teaches other lawyers. So it's gonna be the first thing I'm gonna do after this is gonna be take a closer look at that. But again, we're expecting it during the summer and any day now, and we're checking this constantly to see what is going on. All right, Manali says, "Hello, I'm eligible for CEC. I have an Indian experience in NOC A. However, my Indian employer is not willing to give me the work experience letter. Is there any way to claim the points for this?" So that's a great question, right? You might find yourself in situations where it's hard to prove your work experience in whether a business shut down during COVID, whether the business has moved, whether you don't have a good relationship, or whether they just refuse to give you the letter. And so this is actually something that we do cover in our Express Entry course. We do cover the different types of letters that that you can get from the employer, and if the employer is not able to get you um, a document that confirms. I'm just trying to find it here. I know it's here. It's just a matter of finding it, but it is something that we do talk about in our Express Entry course. In any event, yes, there's definitely a way around this, right? So in this case, you'd be writing a letter of explanation to talk about what efforts you've made to obtain the letter. So you could talk about talking to your boss about it, talking to HR about it, and showing that you've tried to obtain this letter, showing that you've tried to get the support, right? You're trying to show to IRCC you've made the effort to obtain it. And then the second part is going to be to try to find other ways to prove it. So for example, do you have a contract that lists your main duties? Do you have a written contract? Do you have references from maybe colleagues that can talk about your experience? Can you yourself write your own reference letter talking about the knock and then showing how you meet it with concrete examples? So it's not, you can definitely overcome it, right? The fact that you don't have a work experience letter, but you're going to have to provide more evidence, right? You could also provide this in, for example, pay stubs, contracts, letters from another colleague, a letter that you write yourself, and then explaining your efforts. I think that'd be a great way to start, and to start with this. Again, these questions usually tend to be really short. We're just providing legal information. If you want legal advice, so what to put in the letter, how to structure it, and whatnot, head over to our website. We'd love to have a chat with you. At the very top here, you can go speak with a lawyer to speak with one of us. And I do want to point out for everyone that I actually telework outside quite frequently, which means that I am on the Eastern European summer time zone, GMT +3. So for me right now, it's 7:26 p.m., which means that during the day, I'm available for clients in Asia and Europe, in Africa at more convenient times. If you're in Canada and you're a morning person, also a lot of clients that like to get up early in the morning and speak with a lawyer in the morning instead of the afternoon. And if you're someone like this, I have the availability. If we take a look very briefly at the calendar here, you could see this is on my time zone, Asia Beirut. You could see at the very bottom here all the different time zones. If we were to change this, for example, to go to Toronto, you're going to see that this is very early in the morning for people in Toronto, but I am available to speak to you if you're interested. All right, back to the main slide, back to the questions. Oh, Abu Mohammed says, my postgrad work permit will be expiring in September 11. Do I need to take action now in terms of my status, or I should wait for now? All right, so we did talk about respecting immigration laws, right? So right now, you're really hoping that the postgrad work permit is going to be announced, in the next month, or next 6 weeks, right? And if that's the case, look at the eligibility, look at the requirements that are already come out, and look to see whether or not you qualify, right? If you come to September 11th and you don't have another status, you definitely need to do two things: have a legal status in Canada or leave Canada. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Now, the question of should you take action right now or just wait? So right now they recommend that you actually apply for the visitor permit. I think they say 30 days. They usually recommend, they're at least 30 days before your current status expires. So in your calendar, go to August 10th and put a little to do there, and write in consider applying for visitor record. Now this is a should, right? I'm not aware of any legal requirements saying you must apply, right? This says should apply, but generally speaking, let's respect the program rules and let's apply 30 days before. So Abud, you still have a few weeks, but definitely by August 10th, you want to be asking yourself whether or not you should be applying for a visitor record, especially if we don't have any news on the postgraduate permits. All right, next question Sayake Bakshi asks, Hi Cédric, for express entry, my current work experience was 37.5 hours a week for a 1-year contract as a data scientist. However, the contract duration is coming around 363 days. Would there be any issue in this? Sorry, by coming around, you mean it's expiring? Um, if you just have a quick second here to just help me understand your question, I think you have the expiring or you have a 1-year contract for 363 days, so it's not 365 days on a year contract. Um, Anyways, let's take a shot at this. Again, we're just giving legal information, right? We're looking at what IRCC is telling us, and we are providing legal information. This is not legal advice. So if we go through the eligibility stream here, go through the eligibility, and here, again, I don't know if this is Canada or not, but there actually are different rules for federal skilled workers or CEC. So here we're going to assume that it's federal skilled workers. We're going to assume that your contract is 363 days, so not 365 days. And if we take a look here, they actually talk about what is the skilled experience. And here we're talking about weeks, right? We're not talking about you need 52 weeks. You don't need 365 days. And that's an important distinction because if your contract, let's say, expires on a Friday, well, you're not going to be working on Saturday and Sunday anyways. Here's how they calculate the time, right? So it's hard to answer your question. I'm going to say that in some cases, it might be fine. You might still get your 52 weeks, right? You work more than 30 hours on the last week, and your contract finishes on a Friday, and the Saturday and Sunday are those 2 extra days. But definitely take a look at the eligibility requirements depending on your express entry stream, if it's federal skilled workers or the Canadian experience class. All right. Yeah, so Rahul, great question. How does the postgrad work permit extension that is coming up applies for me, who is already on the 18-month extension that I received last year? Rahul, we have no idea. We don't know. Uh, we don't know. We're actually waiting for the information to know more about this. Like I said, as soon as it comes out, we're going to have more information. Is the live over? No, the live's not over. Um, I'm still here, still taking questions. Do I enter transit information that has entry and exit stamp and travel history for PR if I did not leave the airport? For the purpose of travel, I write transited for a few hours. IRB Fox, great question. Let's go take a look at what IRCC tells us. I believe they're only actually asking about countries um, that you physically entered, and in these cases, we're usually talking about like spent like 1 day, like 1 night in the country. But I think it's going to come down to what type of question they're actually asking about. So let's go take a quick look here. Let's flip back to the screen and let's just change this Chrome. Take a quick look here. Here we go. So here's a supplementary information to your travels. And let's go take a look at the very bottom. So obviously very important, if you run out of space, you have to attach a second piece of paper, right? You don't just stop filling out the form. And then here at the bottom, it's going to ask you to list all your trips, right? So let's take a look here at the specific wording. List all trips, and if applicable, your family members have taken outside the country of origin or residence in the last 10 years or since your 18th birthday if this was less than 10 years ago. Include trips, tourism, business, training. If your family did not travel outside of your country during this period, check did not travel. So in abundance of caution, you could put right? We don't have any more instructions on this form. Let's go see online if we can find on the IRCC website, if we can find more information on it. It could, in abundance of caution, it could be actually a fantastic idea um, if you have visas in your passport, like the entry and exit stamps, right? They might be asking themselves, why is this not disclosed in the travel history, right? So in abundance of caution, if you're able to, you could definitely write transit because they are going to see the stamps. This being said, my understanding here is really trips, right? Where you spent time in a country, and my understanding is the transit uh, uh, to be very cautious and to just disclose all the transit, all the stamps in your visa to avoid any issues where they're looking at your passport and they can't understand what is going on. All right, we're just going to change this back. Oops, change this back to our Chrome. Here we have it, and we're going to go on to the next question. All right. There we go. Same question again. Shale says, is there an update on the new TR to PR pathway? Shale, what do you mean by new TR to PR pathway? My understanding is that it's currently closed right now for new applications. Some people have received letters to update certain forms that were not properly completed the first time. Some other people might be a little bit further in the process, but my understanding is a lot of applicants are still waiting for the final decision for the TR to PR pathway. All right, Rashpal Singh Sidhu asks, if working remotely outside Canada, would it be considered a misrep to add it all as Canadian experience? Even if experience is not counted, I would be eligible and still be eligible and higher than the cutoff. Um, Listen, when it comes to the very first step of creating your profile, I would only put legible creating your profile, receiving the invitation to apply, and submitting your EAPR application. I would only put uh, information that you are eligible for. So the reason why is because when it goes to the PR stage, an immigration officer is going to look at the file, right? Look at your application and look at the points that you claimed. And in some cases, your file can be flagged for review. And in that case, your file might be delayed. It might take more time for the officer to make a decision. It's then going to go into the review pile. And then they're going to go through the review pile and they're going to look at your Canadian work experience, and they're going to have to explain in the GCMS notes in their computer why they find that your Canadian experience that you claimed is not actually legible. And then in that case, they would have to take more time to review it, take off your points, reassess your file to see whether or not you have the minimum cutoff, and then whether or not you proceed with your PR application. So if you know right now that it is that is not legible, I would definitely not include it inside of the Canadian for your express entry application. All right, and whether or not it counts as a misrepresentation, there's a very fairly large definition for misrepresentation. So this could include here, I'll actually pull up the definition. A lot of people talk about misrepresentation, but they don't actually talk about what it is, right? So here's the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. Here are categories of inadmissibility. If we go down to section 40, we get into misrepresentation, right? So obviously very serious implications for misrepresentation. You can be found inadmissible, and if you're found inadmissible, you can be, not allowed to reapply for a temporary resident visa for 5 years, right? You could actually be removed also from Canada if we go down and they make a inadmissibility report. All right. Misrepresentation for directly or indirectly misrepresenting or withholding material facts, right? So in your case, you're not withholding material facts. However, you are claiming that you have this experience and you know very well that you're not eligible for it. So see here, other classes of inadmissibility. This is right here is the most important one, and this is the one that most categories fall under. I'll give you another example of misrepresentation in the federal court. I was reading a decision. I don't have it in front of me. It's really spontaneous, but I was reading a decision where someone had a LinkedIn profile and they had, let's say, a job that they did not declare from 5 years ago when they were completing their IMM 5669, which is a form they have to disclose all of your personal history, including employment history, right? So this person thought, well, in this LinkedIn job, this job that I had 5 years ago is not important. Like I'm applying to become an engineer, whether or not I worked in this other job is not relevant, right? However, it was found that it could have directly or indirectly misrepresented or withholding facts, right? And there's a second part that I cut off, but that induces or could induce an error in the administration of the act. So it has quite a broad understanding of what is a misrepresentation, uh, directly, indirectly, misrepresenting or even withholding information can lead to a misrepresentation. So it's quite serious when you're dealing with a misrepresentation. If you have received a procedural fairness letter, right, which would explain why the visa officer has concerns about your application. If you received a letter rejecting your application for misrepresentation, it can have serious impacts. You would have, if you do want to appeal a decision, you are able to do judicial review at the federal court. It's a formal process asking the federal court to review the decision of the visa officer, and essentially, if your application is granted, it's going to be sent to another visa officer for a decision. So that's something to keep in mind. You do have 15 days if you're inside Canada and you receive a misrepresentation, or if you're outside Canada, you have 60 days to go to the federal court. So I'm actually going to be publishing a blog coming up on federal court and whatnot. I was a law clerk at the federal court. There's actually this little diploma here in the back is from the federal court. I was a law clerk at Justice Mosley from 2017 to 2018. In any event, I have experience at the federal court, and if you're interested in judicial review, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, Amrit, nice to see you again. They say, question: Are there chances of some federal skilled worker draws solely being on human capital score and not being targeted occupation draws post C19 implementation? Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Yeah, I mean I really hope so. I mean Express Entry was created as the flagship way to immigrate and get permanent residence in Canada. So I really hope they continue once the applications are down, once they're able to process more claims, right? We have a growing labor market need in Canada. There's a lot of unfilled positions. So um, we're really hoping that people. So we're really hoping that Express Entry continues with the CRS score, but we're also hoping that a lot of people can get occupation-specific draws. It would be fantastic. I just want to say I have no idea how Mark talks for an hour and a half without drinking water. That is impressive. I will have to ask him what his secret is for that because I am always thirsty. My mouth just gets dry. It's harder to talk. But in any event, let's keep pushing. All right, Amrit. Another question from you. Say, I have a Bachelor of Engineering in a Master of Management. I got my master's assessed from WES. Do I World Education Services? So this is an organization that does the educational credential assessments, which is if you have a foreign degree outside Canada, they're going to assess it and they're going to look out what is the Canadian equivalent, which you have to do for Express Entry. Let's head on back to the eligibility and let's take a look at the educational credential assessment. Up over, let's switch pages here. So here we go. So here talks about who needs to get one. So who needs one? And so you're going to need one for your, as we talked about, for your express entry. Or if you want to earn points for education you got outside Canada. As we saw for the Canadian experience class, no education requirements, but it's great to get those additional points. Obviously, you don't need the equivalency degree if, well, your degree is Canadian. There's no equivalency to Canadian. You have your Canadian degree. All right, and it's only going to be, in most cases, you only need an assessment for the highest level of education. So you can see here it says in most cases, so which is a lot of cases. So here we go. It actually talks about your case here. For example, if you have a master's degree, you only need an assessment for that degree. You don't need one for your bachelor's. So there we go, Emrit. We found the answer to your question. Hope this was helpful. It's right there. Frank says, I really appreciated your honest answer. Grinding phase with smiley eyes. This is supposed to be an emoji. It's just not working well in our software, but my pleasure, Frank. Little Explorer says, hello, dear. Need to know if NOC 061 corporate sales manager comes under occupation in demand in Saskatchewan or any other province. I mean, we have 10 provinces and there's 10. They each have their own PNP program, and within each province, you can have multiple streams for the PNP. So, in other words, you're asking me, does NOG 0601 is an occupation in demand for maybe 30 or 40 immigration programs? So, I'm really sorry, Little Explorer. I can't answer your question. So let's start making some assumptions and narrowing this down here. And let's talk about the Saskatchewan PNP. A lot of people will talk about Saskatchewan in particular, since there tends to be less, for Saskatchewan and Manitoba for the PNPs, you might be able to apply for the PNP without being in Canada. So if we take a quick look here at Google Maps, you're going to see here's Canada, and here's Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So a little bit smaller province, well, smaller in terms of population for provinces. So they're really trying to get people to come inside Canada to populate this big empty area that we have in Canada, which is full of lakes. We have a lot of lakes. Also, did you know, little sidebar here, that Canada has more lakes than all of the other countries combined? Look at this, guys. It's just lakes. This is no exaggeration. Pick any province, pick anywhere, and just zoom in, and you'll find a million lakes. Anyways, I learned about this a few weeks ago, that we have more lakes than all the other countries combined. Obviously, we have some bigger lakes, and we have some small lakes. And what's actually really popular is people will actually take canoes. It's called canoe camping, and you're going to go from lake to lake. And when you get to the end of the lake, you actually jump out and you walk over with your canoe in the forest, and then you go into the next lake and you continue. And you can actually go lake to lake for quite long periods of time sometimes. In any event, switching back, going a little bit of a sidebar, let's talk about the Saskatchewan Immigration Nominee Program. It talks about the benefits, program categories, and whatnot. As we talked about, each PNP has their own categories, right? Different categories. Let's take a look here. You're probably going to be talking about international skilled workers, Saskatchewan experience. I don't think you're in Saskatchewan, so it doesn't fall in there. And then you're not doing a farm. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the program requirements. All right, let's take a look down here. Looking to assess your eligibility, right? And then here it talks about the points that you can get. So in short, guys, the way that a PNP works is you're going to create a profile similar to Express Entry. You create a profile, and they're going to give you points based on your degree, your education, your experience, the jobs that are in demand, the amount of work experience you have, the languages you speak, and so on. So all to say, it's you'd create your profile with a PNP, and then if you have enough points, they have their own draws, they have their own criteria how they select individuals, and then they can give you an invitation to apply. There's various terms for it, but in principle, you have your profile, get enough points, you receive an invitation to apply, and then you apply, and at the end you get a PNP nomination, which is fantastic. The PNP would give you 600 points for your Express Entry profile. So it's a really great way to improve your CRS score and come to Canada. Now you were asking about the occupations in demand. It depends for each PNP program. It really depends what are occupations in demand. Some of them, as you can see here, you need a job offer. If you have an Express Entry profile, they have their own, Express Entry. And then here we have, oh, there we go, look at that. Below criteria, but you don't have a job offer or Express Entry profile. Let's take a look at this. Look around what we're looking for. Again, there's so many different PNP programs, and while it's a fantastic avenue to increase your Express Entry points, let's take a look here for the program. So right, there is eligibility points. You have to have a minimum score, education, and here is the occupations in demand. There's excluded occupations. Let's not forget about that. Let's talk about the excluded. Oops. It's opened up another. Let's just switch here. Let's open up another program. PDF here. So let's take a look at that. So here we go. Here's the PDF. So we have a lot of them will have excluded occupations. So here we go. I don't see your knock here. Oh, I don't see your knock. So it's not an excluded occupation. But here are all the excluded occupations. They don't want these types of people in Saskatchewan for the PNP. So this would make you excluded from applying for the occupations in demand stream and the Express Entry stream. All right, let's flip back at this again. All right, so more information on the Knox matrix. Determine the excluded one, we've talked about it. More information down here. Let's just try to download the excluded occupation list. We already did. So how do we get here? Occupations in demand, Express Entry, occupation requirements. So there we go. So here's the occupations in demand and Express Entry programs are for those who have education experience and work experience in demand occupation. Eligible occupations must fall within the knock level. So here your knock 0601. So this is a knock O. So you're in a knock management job. Your job is not on the right. So we've already determined, assuming that this is actually your job, you have all the evidence and whatnot, and then you're not on the excluded occupation list, right? We talked about this. Then, let's see here. Right, this is talking more about the application process itself, and then you don't need a license in your case, and then there's talking about finding employment. So listen, based on just this knock right now, there's nothing to lead me to believe that it's an excluded occupation, right? Assuming, again, you meet this knock. And as a result, in certain circumstances, if it's properly documented and you actually work the knock and you meet the various knock requirements, you very well could be an occupation demand. I'd encourage you, if you're interested, to talk more about Express Entry, the knock, how to prove your knock, to go onto our website, speak with a lawyer. We have experience with Express Entry and provincial nominee programs. Don't hesitate, reach out. We'd love to take a closer look at your situation, closer look at your main duties, the lead statement, whether or not this was an appropriate knock for you to claim. And then we could definitely help you with making a PNP profile and submitting a PNP application, helping you with your invitation to apply, and so on. Now I see here it's getting a little bit dark. Again, I am teleworking abroad. Let's just turn on some lights. There we go. So there we have it. All right, there's a lot of questions here. Let's try to do my best to get to many of them as quickly as possible. I do see a super chat, so let's get right to it. Oh, this program doesn't show me. There we go. So Shi Buken if Iro Fuala says, can I enter the pool with up to 1 year experience in my field? All right, so here during the pool, I presume we're talking about, we've talked about eligibility, but let's get back to it about eligibility. So we have eligibility, and then we have express entry CRS score. So let's take a look. Enter the pool with 1 year experience in my field. Minimum requirements, skilled work experience, right? So my question for you is, what is your field? Let's go take a look. So here we're talking about knock A, knock O, knock A, or knock B. And here it says you must show that while you're working in your primary occupation, you perform the duties set out in the lead statement, right? So here we're actually talking about, let's go take a look. Let's talk about the lead statement. It's something that could be very helpful for a lot of people. So here we are, lead statement. Here we are at the knock. So the first thing you need to do is determine what knock you have, and you can actually do this on the website here. So it's actually ESDC is a separate government organization that actually manages the National Occupation Classification. It's called knock. So let me show you what it is. If it loads. Well, and it's still loading. It's unfortunate, but in any event, here are the different knocks, knock codes, and you have to essentially, your job's going to fall into one of these categories, one of these jobs, and here it tells you your skill level. So if we head back to eligibility, we're only talking about O, A, or B job, right? So if you have a job that's a C or D, you do not have the minimum knock requirement to apply for express entry. All right. Here we go, it loaded. So let's say that you are a programmer, right? So let's take a look to see what comes up for programmer. All right, so let's head on down here, and it gives us examples of matching job titles. You don't actually have to have the job title, but what we're going to be looking at is what knock do you qualify in. So are you a computer programmer and interactive media developers? Maybe. Am I a industrial engineer and manufacturing technologists and technicians? Sure, let's do it. So here's the knock, and here's the knock, and here is what we call the lead statement. There we have it, the lead statement. Head back here, it says that you perform the duties set out in the lead statement. It's not very clear, guys, but here is the lead statement. All right, here are examples, right? This is an example. Your title could be different, but this is what they're looking for, examples. Then we can see here the skill level. This is a skill B. So here we see that this meets the skilled work experience. And let's take a look here at the main duties. So these are the main duties for the different, for essentially for this knock. And you must meet 75% of the knock. So they say here some or all of the following duties. We recommend 75%. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should meet at least 4 out of the 5 knock duties. All right, let's head back, and then you say, all right, well, with up to 1 year experience in my field. So unfortunately, you don't qualify because you need a minimum, at least 1 year of continuous work experience. And here it talks about the ways you can meet it. So you can have a part-time job, actually, for 2 years is going to give you 1 year of work experience, right? Or you could have one job of 30 hours a week for 12 months. So if you the maximum hours you can get is 30 hours a week for a full-time job, and then part-time you can actually get up to an equivalency. Obviously, other requirements within the last 10 years, you have to be paid, right? This can't be unpaid work, and it's a problem that um, a lot of self-employed individuals are going to have, right? How do you prove that this was full time and that it was paid work, right? It wasn't 5 hours a week, right? But you were paid for these 30 hours of work. It's something that a lot of people are going to have issues with proving. You can overcome it if your application is properly prepared. Anyways, I'll just leave it at that. So to answer your question, can I enter the pool with up to 1 year experience in my field? The answer is no. It has to be at least 1 year continuous work experience for the federal skilled workers, right? And you have to be into a knock O, A, or B. All right, we've been streaming for almost an hour. I'm gonna take a few more questions here. Let's take a look here at the questions. Tasumi Allen says, is this IRCC? No, this is not IRCC. We are not the government. Just to make that extremely clear, you can see at the very bottom here of our YouTube, we have Canadian Immigration Institute. There you have it. You know, we are, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, I'm an immigration lawyer at Holthe Immigration Law. We are a law firm that assists our clients with providing legal advice, reviewing forms, legal strategy, help people prepare good applications to come to Canada. We have experience with express entry, PNPs, work permits, study permits. My specific expertise is dealing with rejected applications, dealing with misrepresentations, going to federal court, litigating, trying to find arguments for our clients that can really help them. If you're curious to learn more about what we do, I suggest you go on our team. You can actually read more about our individual lawyers. You can see Mark's our founder. After we have Alicia, Chanel, and here I am, Cédric, and I frequently telework abroad to better serve clients. And right here, you can read more about my experience, my background, and so on. So I have 5 years of experience in immigration and refugee law, civil law degree, a common law degree, a master's of law. I've worked previously for the government of Canada, for the United Nations. I worked at the federal court. There's a lot of experience in immigration law. And pour les clients ici qui parlent français, je vous encourage de m'écrire si ça vous intéresse d'avoir des services juridiques en français. Donc, Cédric Marin, je suis bilingue, je suis né à Ottawa, j'ai grandi dans un milieu minoritaire francophone et je suis ici pour assister aux clients en français ou en anglais. So there we have it. Getting a lot of questions. Foodie Traveler says, getting a lot of questions about CRS scores, guys. And listen, I talked about it in my last live. You can definitely go back. It's the very first thing I talk about is CRS scores. We've already chatted about it a little bit. 485, you're probably looking at anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, depending on how long, on the draws, how frequent they are, and whatnot. But there's still a lot of people ahead of you for the express entry round of invitation. Take a quick look here, rounds of invitation. You can see with 485, you still have about 5,000 and about 10,000, about 15,000 people ahead of you right now in the pool. And we know that they're taking 1,700 candidates. So let's see how long it takes for it to get down. But yeah, I'd say around 6 months, probably around 6 months to a year. All right, guys, we're going to be wrapping up very shortly. Let's take one final question. All right, great question, Miria. Sorry, I think I actually took a question from you yesterday as well. Let's talk about it. So you're saying, hey, Cédric, what if we don't find the exact knock for some jobs we did in ITA work history? Does it really matter about those we don't claim for points? All right. Great question. So you have the time that you create your profile. You're going to putting the work experience, the education that you're going to be claiming points for. However, when you get the invitation to apply, you're going to have to complete various forms to actually get your permanent residence. And one of these forms that you're going to have to complete is called the IMM 5669. Let's go take a look at this immigration form. I'm just pulling it up right now. Oh, we don't want to print this. We want to download it. Let's go take a look at this. Fantastic. Here it is. There we go. There we go. All right, so this is one of the forms you have to complete. Here we go. There's going to be a personal history at the very bottom here, and this actually asks you to provide details, personal history since the age of 18, and you have to write essentially what you were doing for the last 10 years. So whether you're unemployed, studying, traveling, retired, in detention, on a boat for a long period of time, on vacation, they want every single detail. There should be no gap in continuation. If you were studying and you work part-time jobs at the same time, you're going to put your studying here, right? January to April, I was studying in Ottawa, in Ontario, in Canada. I worked at, a job, part-time job for 2 months, part-time job, and these months overlap, right? They need to disclose everything in this form. You're going to have another part-time job, right? If you were working and studying at the same time. And then you stop studying and you have a full-time job. You're going to write the full-time job. You take a year off. For 1 month you're not working, you're going to put right here unemployed. You're going to list this unemployed. There should be no gaps in time. If there's a gap in time, if information is not disclosed here, the form can be sent back to you. You can be found to have committed a misrepresentation. So make sure you complete your forms attentively. When you get the invitation to apply, you have to disclose all your jobs, all your education, all your forms, regardless if you're asking for points for it. And so, to answer your question, what if we don't find the exact knock for some jobs we did in the ITA work history? Does it really matter about those we don't claim points for? Again, they have to be disclosed. However, you don't have to have the specific knocks to complete the personal history section, the work history section. You don't have to have the specific knocks. Obviously, if you have them, fantastic. But in the form that I showed you, again, we don't know what form you're talking about, but if I'm correct in saying it's the IMM 5669, which is a very standard form you have to provide for your permanent residency, it has to be very well completed, disclose everything. But again, they really care about the jobs. When it comes to points, that you have to provide the letters of reference, the knock code, that has to be perfect. The other jobs have to be disclosed. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Again, second live by myself. I just want to thank you so much for being part of our wonderful initiatives that we have, whether it's live Q&As, reading our blogs, having consults with us. We really appreciate our clients. And listen, as I mentioned, as soon as we have details in the postgraduate work permit, I can guarantee you Mark can be on a vacation at a cottage. He could be in the middle of the forest. He's going to come running out and he's going to make a video as soon as he has more information on the postgrad work permits when it's announced. And again, you're looking for that eligibility, whether or not you're eligible. When you're going to be, right now, if you have a permit, a temporary resident visa in Canada, you must continue to abide by the terms and the conditions of it. So you must leave Canada at the end of your stay or have another valid status when you're in Canada. A lot of times you have to apply before it expires. We've talked about this before, but again, we get so many of these questions that I just want to be crystal clear on what you have to do, what is available for you. So, you can change to a labor market impact assessment work permit. If you have a pending PR application with spousal, you might be able to get another work permit. But for a lot of people, you're going to be looking at getting a visitor record. Visitor record allows you to not to re-enter Canada, not to come back into Canada, but to stay in Canada. You have to file the visitor record before your current status expires. So if we head back here very quickly and we go into a visitor visa, and we go take visitor record is what we want. We talked about this at the beginning. Visitor record, extend your stay in Canada. Here we have it. who can apply? Individuals who want to extend their stay as visitors. You're already in Canada, you just want to stay a little bit longer and hope that you qualify for the postgraduate work permit. This is what you're going to be looking to do. We talked about this before, but it's recommended to apply 30 days before. You should, right? There's no must, but you should apply 30 days before. And then you can see here at the very bottom, after you apply, that you can legally stay in Canada until a decision is made on your application. In this situation, you have maintained status, but you cannot keep working. You're not allowed to continue working. You're going to have to stop working when your postgraduate work permit expires. Before it expires, do your visitor record, right? Change to your visitor record and hope that you qualify for the 18-month extension. Again, a lot of unknowns. Can you change from visitor to work inside Canada? Are they going to allow you to do this again if you've already had a public policy? What if you don't have a status? Your status has lapsed. These are all questions we don't know. But again, we're gonna make sure to have a video as soon as we can to let you guys know. On that note, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me. We're going to see you tomorrow. Alicia's joining me. Alicia, fantastic expert, so much expertise when it comes to express entry, when it comes to PNPs. She's been around the business for a while. Again, very excited to be hosting these Q&As this week. Alicia's joining us. And for today, that's it for me, guys. Have a wonderful end of your day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.